You know, people go on and on about like you have to forgive and forget to move past something. No, you don't. You don't have to forgive and you don't have to forget to move on. You can move on without any of those things happening.
Yes, Taylor Swift agreed to be deposed by Brian Friedman.
Could Taylor Swift's text messages actually destroy Blake Lively's case? And does Justin already have them?
Blake Lively is spiraling as Judge Lyman leans on Taylor Swift's evidence to rip her case apart. Explosive texts hint Blake tried to blackmail Taylor and even asked her to erase messages. Now with Lyman blasting Wayfair's sloppy delays, Baldoni fires back by bringing in legal heavyweights Alexandra Shapiro and Jonathan Bach.
Finally, it says here at the end, Ms. Lively misleading implies the Wayfair parties seek a blanket 30-day extension of the discovery cutoff date. In fact, the Wayfair parties request an agreement solely to take the deposition of Taylor Swift.
Forget the glamorous red carpets. Forget the carefully curated Instagram family pictures. This is the real Blake, panicking inside a courtroom because Taylor Swift of all people is about to sit down under oath and spill the tea. October 20th to 25th, 2025, mark those dates. Taylor Swift is scheduled for deposition with Brian Friedman, and not just a casual chat. We're talking an on-camera interview, everything recorded, every word frozen in time forever. Can you even imagine the anxiety running through Blake right now? The very friend she leaned on for years is now going to sit in a legal room and basically rip off the band-aid on her entire case.
Blake Lively's team is complaining to the judge that they haven't seen these signal messages that they think is going to involve some kind of bombshell or some kind of evidence, and they're complaining to the judge that they haven't been able to see them yet. And Baldoni's team is saying that we are willing to give it to you, but it takes a while to retrieve these messages.
Here's where the meltdown begins. Judge Lyman already gave Wayfair access to those Swift Lively messages earlier this year. Blake was supposed to hand them over. Now tell me, when has Blake ever looked like someone who willingly hands over anything damaging to herself? She dragged her feet, she stalled, she pretended she didn't hear the alarm clock. Yet the judge made it very clear, those texts belong in discovery. And now with Taylor agreeing to appear, it's game over for Blake's hide-and-seek act. She can't hide behind her Hollywood sparkle when the world's biggest pop star is literally sitting down under oath.
They're also talking about the deposition dates for Justin Baldoni, which is, I think, September 21st and September 22nd. And Blake Lively's team wants to see all these messages before they're subpoenaing everyone, blah, blah, blah.
And the irony here is delicious. Back in May 2025, Blake's team puffed their chest to Variety and mocked Wayfair for even daring to subpoena Taylor. They said Wayfair had folded when that subpoena got dropped. They acted like Friedman was out of tricks. Well, fast forward a few months and the joke is on them, because Taylor didn't just get dragged in, she volunteered. She said yes. She's not fighting it. No Hollywood excuses, no diva act. She's walking right in, and you can practically hear Blake's stomach hitting the floor. And let's not pretend this is about friendship anymore. The friendship is dead. Burned to ash. You don't unfollow Ryan Reynolds on social media if you're still popping champagne with Blake. Taylor didn't sue Friedman for using her name in court filings. Taylor didn't go out of her way to defend Blake when she easily could have. Silence speaks louder than any Instagram story, and Taylor's silence has been deafening. Everyone sees it. Everyone knows it. That decade-long friendship is over, and now Taylor is coming in with the receipts. And what receipts they are. Because the accusations are ugly. This isn't just about hurt feelings between friends. We're talking about claims that Blake tried to blackmail Taylor into supporting her publicly, and even worse, asked Taylor to delete text messages.
Well, I mean, Friedman said specifically, right, when he put that order out that, you know, someone close to Taylor, which it seems was her father, was not only saying that, you know, there was stuff, but that Blake was asking Taylor to delete text messages. If that's found, that's going to be brutal. I mean, that's definitely not going to help her case.
That's not just messy, that's evidence tampering. Do you know how desperate you have to be to text your superstar best friend? Hey girl, can you delete that? Like really? Blake, this isn't a group chat argument about brunch plans. This is a federal case. You don't delete evidence. That's Law School 101, and Blake clearly skipped class. Now let's move to the second bomb that's about to drop. The texts themselves. Perez Hilton, love him or hate him, is sitting there saying the Wayfair parties have already seen them. Let that sink in.
The Wayfair parties have seen the text messages between Taylor Swift and Blake Lively.
Baldoni's team has eyes on those messages, and according to Perez's source, they're devastating for Blake. Not mildly embarrassing, not a little awkward, devastating. The kind of devastating where your whole legal story starts crumbling like a bad movie script. And it's not exactly sunshine for Taylor either, because she doesn't want her private chats splashed across court documents. But at least Taylor isn't the one on trial here. Blake is.
I think they have the text messages, and I think they got them recently, and that's why they decided to pull this last-ditch effort to get Taylor Swift to get deposed. I think if they had something prior, they probably would have tried to get her on the book sooner.
So, what's inside these texts? Some allegedly show Blake straight up pressuring Taylor. Others might contradict what Blake has sworn in court. Imagine testifying one thing and then the receipts show the complete opposite. That's perjury territory, and juries eat that alive. And the cherry on top is Blake's brilliant idea to use the Signal app with its auto-delete function. Yeah, because nothing screams innocence like picking an app designed to make conversations disappear. Her team whined that it takes time to retrieve those deleted messages. No kidding. That's like robbing a bank and then complaining that the police are too slow counting the money. Friedman wasn't buying it. He kept insisting the data was retrievable. And now Taylor's deposition means whatever Blake thought she could hide might be dragged right into the light.
But, I mean, Taylor's legal team made it clear that they were only notified 3 days before that they were even being dragged back into this for a deposition. So I think that's probably when they got the text messages. We do know that Lyman ruled in favor of the Wayfair parties to get the text messages. So I'm assuming they've now entered the group chat, and there's probably something in there that contradicts something that Blake has said.
And let's not forget Friedman's affidavit. This man swore that Blake asked Taylor to erase evidence. That's not rumor, that's on paper. If Taylor confirms this under oath, it's not just embarrassing anymore. It's deliberate obstruction. You can't spin that into misunderstanding between friends. It's obstruction, plain and simple. The funniest part is how everyone assumed these texts would leak to TMZ or some tabloid. Nope, Wayfair's not playing that game. They're sitting on them like a nuclear warhead. They don't need gossip headlines. They want to drop it in court filings at the perfect time.
And if Taylor Swift are going to share these things under that deposition under oath, and she is Justin Baldoni's witness.
Imagine Blake sitting there thinking she's finally got the upper hand. Then suddenly her own words are read aloud in a courtroom. No paparazzi needed. Just cold, hard legal ammo. So where does this leave Blake? Cornered. Her strategy has been smoke and mirrors, drag things out, throw tantrums, and hope the court bends to her celebrity status. But celebrity doesn't work when Taylor Swift is the one across from you. Taylor isn't just any witness. She's the biggest pop star in the world. If she says under oath that Blake pressured her, or that Blake asked her to delete evidence, the whole narrative collapses instantly. And Blake knows it. That's why the meltdown is happening. That's why the desperation is showing.
I'm assuming they've now entered the group chat, and there's probably something in there that contradicts something that Blake has said that I think will be useful to the Wayfair parties and would have been useful had they been able to depose her.
Blake thought she could bully her way through this, that her charm and PR machine would save her. But PR doesn't save you from a deposition. Red carpets don't erase text logs. And mocking Wayfair back in May looks laughable now. They didn't fold, they played the long game. And the long game ends with Taylor Swift sitting under oath in late October, with the entire world waiting to see just how badly Blake's case blows up. Blake has always tried to sell herself as the polished one, the untouchable Hollywood star with the perfect family brand. But in this courtroom, she looks sloppy. She looks desperate. She looks like someone who burned bridges with the one person who could have quietly defended her, and now that person is about to become the star witness for the other side.
Maybe this was all part of the plan where Taylor's like, look, I'll give you some dirt against Blake. I'll give you these texts. Obviously, let's do it that way. But we have to ensure I don't have to testify. Like that, I'm not going to do. If you want me to play easy, I'll give you this bullet. but we have to make sure it looks like I'm not privy to it and you forced it out of me.
Judge Lyman had finally had enough. You could practically see the smoke coming out of his ears when Wayfair begged for just a 10-day extension. 10 days. That's nothing in federal court. Judges grant those little delays all the time, but not when you've already wasted 6 whole months. 6 months where they were supposed to prepare, gather evidence, and line everything up. And what did they do? Waited until the last minute, dumped a mountain of 100,000 documents at the court's feet, and then acted surprised when the judge wasn't impressed. You don't roll in with 100,000 pages the night before and expect applause. That's not legal strategy. That's a tantrum disguised as paperwork.
Also, according to what leaked to the media back in May, Taylor Swift had been asked by Blake Lively to delete text messages between them. That's basically evidence tampering, which is very serious.
Lyman flat out refused, and honestly, can you blame him? He saw through the chaos. He knew Wayfair wasn't serious about deadlines. His refusal wasn't about the 10 days, it was about the principle. He was sending a message. You had half a year to get your act together, and instead you tried to game the system. If you want sympathy, you don't wait until discovery is closing to suddenly drop a tsunami of documents. Judges hate that. It wastes everyone's time, and in federal court, time is gold.
Due to Miss Swift's pre-existing professional obligations. Whether the court agrees to the broader modification sought by plaintiff, the Wayfair parties respectfully request that the court modify the scheduling order for the sole purpose of accommodating third-party witness Taylor Swift.
And then there's the subpoenas. Wayfair couldn't even manage basic details like addresses. When you're asking to subpoena someone, you give the judge the information. You don't shrug and say, oh, we didn't want to bother you with the specifics. That's not how it works. Judges always want details. Always. And here's Friedman, once again fumbling the ball, making bold claims in the press about suing Blake into oblivion, then collapsing in court because his team couldn't handle the basics. Oblivion? Please. At this point, Blake looks more alive than ever, and it's Wayfair gasping for credibility.
And Baldoni's team agreed to drop the subpoena against Taylor Swift. In that subpoena, they were looking for information how Taylor Swift was actually involved in the production and everything with It Ends With Us. Now, that's not really their goal here. Their goal here is to get the information out of Taylor Swift.
Legal analyst Ron put it best. Judges usually don't care about small extensions, but Lyman's refusal showed he'd had it with the circus. His patience was gone. You could practically hear him saying, "I'm not here to babysit you clowns." That's the kind of tone you never want from a federal judge. But Wayfair earned it with every sloppy filing and every empty promise. They spent more time feeding gossip blogs than convincing the man in the robe, and now it's costing them. The pattern is so obvious. Every time Friedman opened his mouth for the cameras, the courtroom consequences hit harder. He promised destruction, he promised to bury Blake, and instead he buried his own team's credibility. It's like watching a magician who keeps announcing his tricks, then trips over his own cape before pulling the rabbit out of the hat. No wonder the critics are saying Baldoni's side wasted their energy chasing headlines instead of precision. They wanted splashy moments, but the court isn't impressed by splashy moments. The court wants receipts, and Wayfair kept fumbling them.
Right, Alexander Shapiro's no joke. We had Ron on who was talking about that's a ballsy move. That's a show-off flex. Like, we got someone in here, and she's more capable to handle this trial than, let's be honest, Friedman's not always a trial attorney. So it does seem like they are trying to do some flexing now, but
here's where things get interesting. Just when it looked like Wayfair's legal strategy was one long blooper reel, they decided to level up. Enter Alexandra Shapiro. If you don't know her, let me paint the picture. She clerked for not one, but 2 federal judges, including her time with Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the Supreme Court. This isn't some publicity stunt hire. This is the kind of lawyer you bring in when you're preparing for appeals, when you know the current judge isn't buying what you're selling. Shapiro lives and breathes appellate law, white-collar defense, and complex litigation. She's not here to hold your hand. She's here to tear apart rulings piece by piece and argue why the judge messed up.
That these text messages have been sent or have been seen by Baldoni's team. He said that this person told him, "This is not good for Blake Lively." He also thinks that it's not great for Taylor Swift because Taylor Swift doesn't want to get dragged into this, and of course she doesn't want her text messages to become public.
And she's not alone. Jonathan Bach also joined the lineup. another top-tier white-collar defense attorney. Between the two of them, Wayfair suddenly looks like they're done playing the clown show in Judge Lyman's courtroom and are instead building an escape route straight to the appellate court. Because here's the trick, appeals aren't about retrying the whole case. Appeals are about showing the judge made mistakes, and Lyman gave them plenty of material to work with. He blocked witnesses, rejected delays, and, in their eyes, bent over backwards to give Blake every opportunity. That's the record Shapiro will build on.
Taylor Swift, who has agreed to appear for deposition but is unable to do so before October 20th, 2025. Yes, Taylor Swift agreed to be deposed by Brian Friedman.
Take the New York Times example. Blake had fed the paper a CRD complaint that wasn't even public at the time. The NYT claimed they were just reporting on public information, but that fell apart when it turned out the complaint wasn't public at all. Suddenly, the Times defense is full of holes, and Blake's credibility takes another blow. That's the kind of nugget appellate lawyers love. It shows favoritism, inconsistency, and potential bias. Exactly the ammunition Shapiro needs. And then we've got Exhibit A. Blake screamed, "Smear campaign," when Baldoni's team talked about publishing evidence online. But when the exhibit was unsealed, it turned out to be nothing more than strategy emails about making already filed evidence public. That's not smear, that's just PR. Legally, it's paper thin. Yet Blake waved it around like it was her smoking gun. This is what she calls her big defense? It looked more like desperation dressed up as outrage. And it only makes her look weaker, because if Exhibit A is all you've got, you're in trouble.
So is Taylor Swift's team right now putting a lot of pressure on Blake Lively's team to end this lawsuit? I don't know, but that makes a lot of sense.
I'm still someone who is the first to apologize when I'm wrong. And I think I'm better at standing up for myself when I've been wrong.
With Shapiro and Bach steering the ship now, Wayfair is clearly playing the long game. They don't care if Lyman rolls his eyes in the trial court. They're writing the script for the appellate judges who will later review all of this and decide whether Lyman was unfair. Every denied extension, every blocked witness, every overlooked detail becomes another entry in the appeal record. They're building a case not just against Blake, but against the judge himself. And that's the part Blake doesn't want to face. Because if this appeal strategy works, all her little courtroom wins vanish. The subpoenas she dodged, the delays she blocked, the sympathy she milked, all of it gets dragged back into question. The appellate court doesn't care about her celebrity glow. They care about procedure. They care about fairness. And if they decide Lyman tilted the scales, this whole thing can be cracked open again.
And the fact is here, even if those text messages between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift doesn't say anything about the SH that Blake Lively accused Justin Baldoni of, that's real evidence as well.
So, while Blake is busy parading around like she's untouchable, Wayfair's quietly assembling a legal Avengers team that makes her look outmatched. She's relying on theatrics, calling everything a smear, while the other side is drafting appellate briefs with Shapiro's fingerprints all over them. That's not just another lawyer in the room. That's someone whose entire career has been proving judges wrong. And the best part? Every move now forces Blake to think about settlement. She can posture all she wants, but when you're staring down lawyers of this caliber, you have to ask yourself if you're really ready to fight them in trial and then again in appeal. Because Shapiro and Bach aren't here to settle gossip. They're here to grind this out, appeal by appeal, until Blake either folds or finds herself drowning in legal bills with nothing to show.
Because we know that if there were some real value in there, Blake Lively would have probably used it already against Justin Baldoni. If she conferred in her best friend and told Taylor about this SH, that evidence would have been out there. And it's not.
Blake thought this was a game of PR, and for a while, maybe it was. But you can't charm your way past appellate lawyers who've clerked for Supreme Court justices. You can't call everything a smear when the record shows you handed the New York Times a non-public complaint. You can't pretend Exhibit A was some conspiracy when it was nothing but emails about making filings public. Wayfair may have stumbled through 6 months of missed chances, but with Shapiro and Bach in play, the tone has shifted, and Blake Lively, who once looked like she was cruising toward victory, now looks like someone about to get dragged through another round she never planned for.
As far as we know, Blake Lively didn't confer anyone about this horrific experience that she had on the set of It Ends With Us. At this point, you have to remember, it's not that important how much involvement Taylor Swift had in the making of It Ends With Us.
So now we've reached the media circus part of this disaster, and honestly, it's more entertaining than any movie Blake has ever made. The settlement rumors are swirling everywhere. Perez Hilton and others are saying both sides might just throw their hands up, walk away with no damages, and issue those carefully polished joint statements. You know the type. After much reflection, we've decided to put this matter behind us. We wish each other the best. Please. That's not closure. That's spin. That's two people pretending they weren't just clawing at each other like wildcats in federal court. And the fact that settlement is even being whispered tells you how shaky Blake's position is. Because if she had real ammunition, she wouldn't even think about walking away quietly. She'd be demanding the moon. But the fear is real. Because let's be honest, juries are unpredictable. Public opinion can hate Blake's guts. Twitter can roast her every day. But once you're in a courtroom with 12 strangers, anything can happen. We've seen it before. Celebrities walk in looking guilty as sin and somehow strut out with a win. And that unpredictability is hanging over both camps. Baldoni's side knows the risk too. Even with Taylor Swift's deposition looming like a guillotine, there's no guarantee a jury will see it the same way. That's why speculation about settlement keeps gaining steam, because no one wants to roll the dice when so much reputation and money is at stake.
She is sitting down for an on-camera interview to talk about her relationship with Blake Lively and probably about the text messages that Blake Lively sent to her when she was trying to blackmail her.
And while all this is boiling in court, Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, is out here running his own PR marathon. The man is desperate to polish up their family brand, and it's painfully obvious. First, he donates $10,000 to a cancer-stricken 13-year-old girl. Don't get me wrong, the donation is nice, but the timing, suspiciously convenient. This comes right after his red carpet rudeness scandal, where he allegedly brushed off a kid reporter. So now he's writing big checks to children with heartbreaking stories. And surprise, it's splashed across headlines. It's not just generosity, it's image rehab 101. And Ryan's been doing this long enough to know how the game works. But the PR stunts don't stop there. He's touring the John Candy documentary as An Evening with Ryan Reynolds and Friends. Tickets priced between $76 and $112. And the problem? His photo is bigger than John Candy's on the posters. Think about that. A documentary about John Candy, a universally loved comedian, and Ryan decides to make himself the main event. Critics are already tearing him apart, saying he hijacked Candy's legacy just to rebrand himself as a lovable family guy again. And it reeks of desperation, because while Blake is being exposed in court, Ryan is clinging to nostalgia and goodwill like a life raft.
At this point, when Justin Baldoni is just defending himself, the important thing for Blake Lively to prove here is that she was SH'd. And if she can't show any evidence of that, I've said that before, then her whole case collapses, because then she doesn't have a claim with the smear campaign either.
Then, as if that wasn't enough, he starts spinning stories about being a class act at Wrexham's embarrassing defeat in front of David Beckham and Will Ferrell. Suddenly, headlines pop up praising how classy Ryan was in handling the loss. Really? That's the angle? The team loses, but Ryan wins because he managed to clap politely? That's not news, that's a planted puff piece. It's the Reynolds playbook on full display. Drown the scandals with carefully curated feel-good headlines. Problem is, everyone can see through it. You can donate money, you can plaster your face on a John Candy doc, you can spin yourself as a gentleman at a soccer match, but none of that distracts from the fact that your wife is being dragged for evidence tampering in federal court.
Of course, there might be a text message there that Blake Lively asked Taylor Swift to delete the text messages. That information is something that Brian Friedman wrote a sworn statement about, that Blake Lively had asked Taylor Swift to delete evidence.
And speaking of people dragged into this mess, Isabella Ferrer suddenly pops up looking like she just walked out of witness protection. Different hair color, subdued look, paparazzi shots screaming subpoena stress. Whether she's sad or just posing doesn't even matter, because the message is clear. This case has tentacles everywhere. It's not just Blake and Baldoni anymore. It's pulling in side players, friends, colleagues, anyone even remotely connected. And every time someone new is spotted, it just reminds the public how wide this net has spread. Blake's personal drama is now an industry-wide headache. Now comes the real kicker. Taylor Swift's testimony. This isn't some gossip blog leak or anonymous Reddit post. This is sworn deposition, filmed, on record. And the fact that snippets will end up in filings means Blake can't spin her way out of it. If Taylor confirms that Blake tried to blackmail her or asked her to delete messages, then Blake's credibility doesn't just take a hit, it collapses completely. It's like pulling the one card that makes the whole house fall, because once you're exposed as someone who tampers with evidence, nothing else you say in court can be trusted.